primary school field in year 7, and we're all shouting. That's not primary school. Year 7's high school, so I messed myself up there. But you know what
we
I mean.
don't know. We're too old. We don't remember. Anyway, okay. Should we move on from that, Gaz? Are you happy to move on from that?
I know fuck all about politics, but you know what? After that speech, I'd give Cameron a vote to be the next fucking Prime Minister.
I appreciate that.
I will, as long as he behaves himself.
Better than Theresa May as well.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult to do better than her at the moment. But anyway,
ask some fun questions.
Are you satisfied, Lindsay?
I am. There's still some things you said that I'm not that happy with, but I don't think there's any point. If you're saying you don't feel those things anymore, and you were trying to wind people up, then
absolutely.
And it said if you're offended, fuck off. So I mean,
I mean, like I say, I apologise obviously if it did offend you, and if it did offend anyone else, and you know, I didn't intend to offend you guys. That was never my intention. And like I say, obviously that doesn't mean that me wanting to wind people up was a good thing, but because it wasn't. Obviously that's not a mature thing to do. But it was 2.5 years ago. I have changed. I have grown. And learn things. I know that's such a cop-out thing to say, but it's genuinely the truth. My opinion is not the same. If I did that video on that topic now, the video would be very, very different.
Yeah.
My opinion would obviously still be like what I've said to you about both radical sides and stuff like that, and that I think they're both not helping. And my opinion would still be that, but I would just word it in a better way, and it wouldn't be to do with a series where I'm trying to offend and just wind up a few people from school. So I hope that's kind of cleared it up for you. I totally obviously respect that, you might still feel however you feel about it, and that's totally your feelings. And I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise.
It was the only reason why it was a shame was because we liked you so much at first, and then I felt like I couldn't like you, even though times throughout the time watching you, I did really, really like you. I found you funny, but that was always like at the back of my mind. So it was just a shame because I could have been so behind you. But Gaz, anyways.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from, and you don't have to apologise about that at all.
No, I actually do want to apologise because I've been quite mean about you on the podcast, and I don't really think of you as being a real person. And for you to come on, we really appreciate it. So.
No, you're welcome. You don't have to apologise. I it's Big Brother at the end of the day. We all have opinions on things. The only thing that I'm upset about people talking about is when they talk about the whole coming out thing and say that I've done that before. That's the only thing, because that
Let's
question.
Talk about that.
That question's my take. That's the only one. If people moan about me being miserable and stuff like that, that's fair enough, because I've watched the first 2 weeks and I'm as miserable as they come. So I totally understand if people find that. That's fine. That's Big Brother. That's opinion. Some people are going to love the miserableness. Some people aren't going to like it. That's the whole point of the show. I like that. So I have no issue with that at all. It's just when people question the whole coming out thing, that's what really does irritate me. Because
tell us your stance on that.
Can I just clarify some of the stuff that I've said? So I did question whether you strategically plan to come out in the house, because and I've voiced this on the podcast that a storyline wins Big Brother UK, and you knew that because it seemed to me like you knew quite a lot about the show. You said afterwards that you went in planning to never have to come out, never have to deal with it. And actually, I did buy that. And I said that to Lindsay in the last podcast. I do actually believe what you'd said. Yeah. So, yeah, over to you. It wasn't a strategy. It was never a part of a plan.
Absolutely not, because I knew how it was going to come across. I knew people would question it. The thing is, we always want to see people's lives unfold. I always want to see real people in there and real people's lives unfold. On the show. And obviously when I was coming up to the show, I've still got the letters. I read every single family member. There's about 30 letters, a letter basically coming out to them in a letter, and I just never had the balls to give it to them. I managed to give it to my aunt, and I managed to tell my mum literally the day before I went into hiding, and they're the only two family members that know, and that is the God's honest truth. I've got my mum wrote me a diary when I was in the house. Basically, originally it was just to try to keep me informed of what was going on at home with my little sister and how she was getting on at school and stuff like that. But then it turned into like a Big Brother fan thing where she was talking about what I was doing on the show. And as I've been watching the show, and obviously that conversation that I had with, I had obviously a conversation in the diary, which I honest to God didn't think was going to be aired. And obviously I had a conversation with Lewis in the locker room, which was coded, but it was, let's be honest, it was absolutely terribly coded. And in that diary entry, it says your aunt's just messaged, your nan's just messaged, and granddad and stuff like that. And they've all said, they don't 100% know what you're talking about, but they love you no matter what and stuff like that. So that it does upset me when people are questioning it, because I've literally got proof there. I've got Facebook messages from them when I came out, obviously on television. I'm telling you now, My dad didn't know. I know what he said on bots. He meant apparently
Your mum told him.
And his mum, my mum did prepare. My mum
Mm.
did tell him when I went, because she didn't want him to find out. But the first time he would have heard those words and me actually say it is when Lewis asked me the question and I responded. And that is the God's honest truth. I'm not going to swear on anything because I don't like swearing on things, but I would swear on anything. That is the God's honest truth. And as for the whole tweet thing, the whole YouTube video, I'm not even going to cross over that because that's not even a talk about that. I was talking about my fear of death. Obviously, I used a word that, yes, in theory does mean that by definition, but it was not me talking about that at all. And then obviously there's a tweet as well where I think I said I'm bent, follow my private Twitter. Again, that's not, I didn't mean, obviously bent, I know what bent means, you know, I know what it meant, but it wasn't me coming out. Trust me, if everybody my sort of age who called themselves bent on social media was actually bent, then there'd be a lot more hot guys for me to actually be able to get to, because it would be half the world. A lot of straight guys who I'm in love with, I would actually maybe have a chance with. So it wasn't that, I swear to you. My aunt knew, my mum knew, told my dad after I went into hiding. I never told him, so he would have heard that first from there. My best friend Bex knew. She won't mind me name dropping her. She'd probably get all excited when she listens when I've name dropped her. But that's it. All my I never told any male friends. That's the first time they heard. I had another couple of aunts. They didn't know. My grands, my two nans, my two granddads didn't know. My uncles didn't know. My cousins, none of them knew. So it was. I mean, if coming out is coming out to your mum the day before you go into hiding, then yes, I came out. But I don't think it is. In my mind, coming out is when you're happy, or when everybody in your family or your circle of friends knows, and they didn't know until what they saw unfold on Big Brother. And that's why I was so worried about it, because I genuinely I was upset with myself because I never got to give them those letters that I wrote. And I never got to tell them, and they had to find out on national television. And obviously, reading the diaries, obviously, my aunt sent me a message when I came out. One of my aunts sent me a message and said, "I just wish I could hug you now and tell you that we're okay with everything and everything's fine." So I understand people are always going to question the genuineness of it, and that's fine, because I'm on Big Brother. I knew how it's going to come across. I watched the show. I know that some people are not going to take that as what it was. It wasn't a strategy to win the show, I swear to you, because it was. I wish it wouldn't have been an issue. I wish I'd been able to sort it out before, and I wish I'd been able to get through without talking about it, because it really emotionally was tough in there because of what I'd done. And that's not me saying, "Oh, feel sorry for," because I don't want anyone to feel sorry for it. I did what I said, and I did what I did in there. But like I say, what I am sad about is that people are questioning it. But I get it. I totally get why people would. But even though they are questioning it, and people will continue to question it, the amount of messages that I've got from people that have said how much I've helped them and how they've came out to their family and their mum, it honestly, I can take the hate for 10, 12, the rest of my life from, people, if it means that I've helped out and helped change people. And honestly, reading some of the messages last night, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was honestly crying, because I put on when Lewis had that chat to me in the locker room and started crying, and then I started reading some Instagram messages to try and cheer myself up, and they were all about that and saying how much I've helped them and how they've come out to their mum and how they have an issue with the word as well. So seeing that on television was so relatable, and it means the absolute world, and I'm so honoured that I was able to do that. I didn't plan on doing it, but good seems to have come from something that I never planned on doing, and I do now feel free. So I honestly can tell you, and obviously people don't have to believe it and believe what you want, but it was genuine. That's the God's honest truth. That is the truth about the whole coming out thing. And but obviously there's still going to be a few people that are going to question it and maybe going to the positives outweigh the negatives regarding that tenfold. And there's always going to be people questioning it. But like I say, reading the messages that I'm getting, and there's been a lot, and I don't mean that to try and be arrogant or anything like that, but there's been so many messages. It's meant the absolute world to me that I've actually finally been able to put the 4 years of shit to bed and actually be able to help people out as well. So I can take the little bit of hate that comes with it if it means that I'm helping people out and I'm genuinely changing people's lives, because it's just, I can't describe to you how it feels that I'm actually, by doing something like that, I've managed to help people's lives out. It's made everything worth it. And that's not me trying to come across as a saint, because everyone who comes out, it's difficult. It was no more difficult for me than it was everyone else. And that's why when I won, I know it sounds ridiculous, and I never said it in the house because I didn't want it to become something like some storyline or anything like that, which obviously it did. But I mean, I didn't want it to become like I was saying this to try and get me to win. But I do dedicate my win to anyone who's ever come out, because it is a really, really difficult thing. And what I did there, I did, but so many thousands of people have done that and had different reactions. And it was as much for them as it was for me. to win the show, and I'm so glad that it's helped people out, and it's kind of made the whole thing worth it. Sorry, I rambled again. You just tell me to shut up like Big Brother.
Yes, you say.
No, that was an incredible response, and actually, you just got me feeling a little bit emotional there, because I mean, like on the feedback on the last podcast that we had, somebody has been really grateful to me about sharing my story, and that is just one person, and that made me really emotional. So to have a lot of positive feedback about, you know, having helped other people coming to terms with it, I can understand how emotional that would be. And we also had an email from, is it the same person?
Yeah, no, different person about Cameron, yeah.
You, and how they were so conflicted because they didn't agree with your political views, but at the same time, you coming out and dealing with that difficult situation was really an inspiration to them. In fact, that was conflicted. That was the same person.
Conflicted, yeah. It was the same person. You were both an inspiration to that same person.
Oh.
And this person called Ali in real life, isn't it? And we're not sure if was just saying thank you to me for being a positive gay role model who's like proud to be gay, etc. And yeah, it means a lot. And I feel bad for questioning your motivation.
No, you shouldn't feel bad, because it's on national television.
It's Big Brother.
It's I knew what was going to happen. It was understandable that people were going to question it. Yes, it's upsetting that people are still questioning it, and it does hurt, because it kind of makes you feel like, I don't know, it just makes you feel a little bit shit regarding the whole thing. But I understand that was always going to happen, and I'm just glad that it has been able to help people out. And I know there's some people that saying, I've read some tweets that say, oh, he's not even, you know, the G word, he's asexual and stuff like this. It's just,
what are you even? I said that myself. So I don't even believe he is. Yeah, and then I said, look at his wardrobe.
And that that's funny. But
he's only 18. You don't really know how to dress yourself yet, you know.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point. I cannot dress myself. But no, that bit did upset me a little bit when I read different stuff like that, because obviously I have struggled with it for so long, and then for people to question it after that, and it's not that I'm not proud of it. It's just I find it very difficult to say the words, and nobody should feel ashamed.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, yeah.
You're actually, to be able to come to terms with it at that age is actually a really positive thing. I think it took me a lot longer to even know myself that I was. So know yourself, Lindsay. Big quote there.
It's a massive deal, and you shouldn't really have to explain yourself about that. Really, it's no one's business, and of course it's someone's business because you're doing it on TV. But you won, so obviously a lot of people did believe you and were on board with it. And there was loads of weren't there, that were saying that, what's that noise? Is that me? We're saying that it helped them, and Team North was saying that it was really emotional and stuff. So, yeah. You're doing something on your phone. It's making a noise.
No, I'm not touching my phone. No. My boyfriend was also saying the same, and we were being like, "Oh, that's a storyline."
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to get that out. It's good to get that out there and get your point across. Guys, ask some fun questions now. This is like fucking question time.
Yeah, okay. So you are a super fan, but you're only 18. How much like past Big Brother had you actually watched?
Well, I've obviously I started watching when I was about 10. So about 8 years ago, when I wasn't even meant to be watching it, because this is, you know, all the warnings that they give at the start of the show, obviously that didn't go down particularly well. You know, I did it discreetly, but no, I've gone back and watched the shows and watched the X series and stuff like that. I'm terrible with knowing winners and stuff, that I get everyone mixed up, because I don't know about you guys, but some series just people fall into like 3-4 series, and it confuses me then when what series they actually are in. But I've watched, I mean, literally my history on YouTube is just full of Big Brother best bits, Big Brother highlights, Big Brother this, Big Brother that. I watch it all throughout the year, even when it's not on.
Yeah.
I'm still watching it. So when Celebrity finishes and everyone's like, oh, it's a break until the summer, there I am rewatching this series, the Gemma Collins Celebrity series, Tiffany Pollard, that sort of stuff, or going and watching like Nikki Graham series. It's just trying to find the links online. I mean, you know what I'm talking about because you're super fans. You know, trying to scroll through and find blooming links to X series is absolutely not. And then you get to one episode and it's like copyrighted and you can't find the episode. And it's a nightmare. So that's when I started watching it. But I've watched pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't say I've watched every single episode of every single series because that would probably be a lie. But I have watched parts of the majority of most series. I know what most storylines are and stuff like that. So names and winners and that I'm awful at. So I'm a terrible super fan when it comes to that. But
that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And do you watch the international versions at all?
I've watched a little bit of American Big Brother.